I do not endorse monkey gladiator fights.
I do.
Maybe they're hippie aliens. It was really good, but it will never beat the Avril Lavigne conspiracy. Dane, do you want to start with the humanoid with antlers in the woods, or do you want to start with my father-in-law encountered a frogman?
Frogman.
And we're back. How's it feel, Dane, to be back? You excited?
I'm tired.
I can tell. We've got some good stuff going on tonight. We're going to have Jess on. She's going to tell us a Civil War-related ghost story. I think that one's going to be great. We've got a lot of people that we're interviewing about, like, those white humanoid things recently, Dane. It's kind of interesting.
I think it's kind of a coincidence that get 2 in a row at least.
Yeah, crawlers is what most people think of them as. Kind of interesting. Like, the whole skinwalker and crawler thing is really interesting the more I hear people talk about it, because no one knows what the fuck they are, but they're creepy as hell. And there's a lot of variation in the descriptions, but they're all the same kind of general thing. So, you know, who knows what the hell they are. But let's just, we got a lot of stuff that I want to do tonight. This is a new segment that we have. It's not just interviews anymore in the show. We have rebranded to the 80s theme, as you just saw from that new intro, by the way. The guy that actually did our intro music, he's awesome. His music is really good. It's that retro wave 80s theme stuff, kind of Stranger Things vibe. And
Vaporwave or synthwave?
I think
I don't know the exact title of it.
No matter what I say about that, is the problem is we're gonna get ripped apart for it because we're not well versed on the differences. So I think they're the same genre, but I'm not sure.
They're similar but not the same.
Maybe they're subgenres. That's probably what they are. Perhaps someone in the comments will correct me there if I got anything wrong. But there's a new segment called Couch Surfing that we're doing. Working title, by the way. Dane, do you have a title for it yet?
I haven't thought of something yet, so we get couch surfing for now.
We get couch surfing for now. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to read some people that didn't want to come on the show that were like, yeah, if you want to share my story, you can share my story. So we're going to read some of those. We used to call those archived encounters when we used to put them up to read. And we'll still put them up to read for people, but we're also going to talk about some of them on the show. By the way, if you go to our website, challengetheunknown.com, we have a research tab where we put a lot of these cases and stories that people don't want to share and come on the show for. You can read them on there, and we also cover on there like UFO cover-ups, that kind of stuff. We'll write little blogs about it, so you can definitely check it out there. So we also have new merchandise, by the way. We've completely rebranded the show, so we have bunch of like conspiracy retro themed like film and VHS covers, and then we also have that Area 51 sign, which is pretty cool. And we have a new manufacturer now, which has some really high quality stuff, so definitely go check it out. You know, I'm gonna shill for us, but that's all right. So what do you want to start with, Dane? Do you want to start with the humanoid with antlers in the woods, or do you want to start with my father-in-law encountered a frogman?
Frogman, without a doubt.
In his kitchen, by the way.
In his kitchen.
Yes, okay. This originally appeared on The Truth Is Here and then was cross-posted into Humanoid Encounters. Okay, as bizarre as this sounds, he's sworn up and down that this is true. My family does not have a history of strange or supernatural encounters, so personally I believe them. By the way, this has gotten some pretty positive feedback from the community. I'm actually really surprised. Generally, when people put out these like things that you don't hear about too often, people will shit on it a lot, but I mean, everyone's had some pretty positive feedback. It's really cool to see that. Basically, it goes into saying that he made his way into the kitchen and he made eye contact with what looked like a giant frog standing on 2 legs. My father-in-law was 15 years old and he just walked back to his room and went back to bed, I guess, because that's what you do when you see a fucking frogman in your kitchen.
It was probably on some like mushrooms or something.
Jesus Christ.
It's frogmen.
My God, frogmen. Does anyone know of any frogman cryptids? So let's actually look at the comments. I'd love to see if there's any more, because I've never heard of a frogman. I've heard of like the lizard swamp creature men or whatever. You've heard of those, right, Dane?
Only thing that comes to mind is D&D.
D&D. A lot of people just saying nothing really interesting. I'm actually kind of surprised. The comments are really bland. They're all supportive, but no one's really throwing anything out there. Oh, here's one. I read a post on Our Paranormal last night from a mom that mentioned that her child regularly sees, quote, happy green men in their new home. Some people are commenting saying it's fae folks, like the fairies and stuff. You believe in the fairies, Dane?
No.
Oh, okay.
But Fae Trap is a real thing.
Fae trap? What's a fae trap?
You know, like Zihani, shout out.
That's not music, Dane.
That is music.
That is
and it
not music.
glorious.
I'm going to have a 20-minute argument.
If you disagree, then that's okay because that's your
Fuck your opinion. Happy Green Man, that's kind of interesting, but that's not really, I guess, kind of attributed to Frog, but I mean, I'd jump to aliens first before, Anyway.
Maybe they're gnomes.
But here's the real question, Dane.
Hmm.
Is the Frogman gay?
Is the frog? Who says that?
Laughs in Alex Jones.
Oh my god.
What else do we got here? Yeah, it's a lot of people just making jokes about it. Like, people are supportive, but I mean, no one's really like saying I've seen a giant frogman.
I don't think many people have.
I would be very shocked if I came across a giant frogman.
Maybe it's aliens.
Oh wait, here we are.
Aliens were raiding his fridge.
Amphibian humanoids. Most frog breeds are pretty benevolent, but beware of lizard people or any type of shapeshifters of the amphibious type.
Mark Zuckerberg.
They have no place in this world, and every single one I have crossed paths with has punctured parts of my spiritual self. Dangerous creatures. That's getting an upvote. Interesting. Here's one. I reached out to this guy and asked him to come on, and he said, I really can't make it happen, but, I asked him if we could share it, and he said, sure, so here we are. I live in, Princeton.
Where's
I drive
Princeton?
on Highway 460, Peterstown, east and a little north, from work at 2 a.m. today. This was actually posted today. I was driving
today.
Yeah, it was posted earlier today. I was driving and for some reason looked up the hill on my left and saw a creature with antlers on the hill. Thought nothing of it, thinking it was a deer, until it raised up. And I saw the thing had claws, and then it ran on 2 legs into the woods. It left me with a terrible anxiety, and I wanted to pull over, but I was honestly afraid it would loop back around and attack me. I drove on, and about 5 minutes later, I see the creature again, but standing on the side of the road, already on its hind legs, watching me. I freaked the hell out and pulled over at a gas station not far down the road to catch my breath and calm down. I don't know anything about folklore in this area besides the basics, so I'd appreciate any information on what this is. That's the end of the post. And then it got really good feedback.
So there's a movie. If I remember correctly, it's supposed to be a found footage.
Oh yeah, fuck.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know
right?
I watched that. I watched that movie with my buddy Casey like a year ago. The Ritual.
Ritual, yeah.
The Ritual. I remember that fucking movie. That thing was creepy as fuck.
That's what I'm getting vibes of.
Dude, super creepy. So yeah, that's a really interesting one. Probably some Wendigo shit. I'm gonna go with. Creepy as hell.
Well, where was he located? Like what state?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania. I don't know about native land up there.
This sounds like not a deer to me. Comments are fantastic. I had an encounter with an upright deer-headed thing in Idaho about a decade ago. Non-violent, just very creepy. Ugh. All that fucking standing on the hind legs and that stuff just freaks me out, man.
Yeah.
They're bipedal. There's one. Let me see if I can pull it up. I found it last night, and it was about how this guy's parents were from Russia, and basically like the whole Yeti thing. It was really interesting.
Siberian?
They were Siberian. Found it. God bless Google history. My family is Russian. Both my parents are from Siberia. I'm just going to I'm not going to quote it word for word because I haven't talked to this guy about it. So I'll just kind of read some of the interesting parts of it. My dad is not the type of guy who believes in paranormal activity. He thinks ghosts and aliens are BS. And it was to my surprise that he believes in Yeti, Sasquatch, and Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. So my dad is 51, and in his 20s he served in the military, and he served in a place called Sputnik, a village close to the Russian border in Norway. If you look it up, you can actually still see the barracks and the whole military camp itself. Pretty fascinating. Goes into detail about camp itself. My father gets a truck together with the others and gets on the road. They reached a place far later than anticipated because of something along the lines of, we got a flat tire. It was dark. Everyone decided to sleep at the warehouse. The thing that was keeping him up that night was a sense of discomfort that he couldn't explain, and he decided to share it with the others. Everyone nods and agrees that they're feeling the same thing. Another 30 minutes go by. The discomfort has evolved into a mild panic. And at this point, everyone is really concerned because they've got to wake up early tomorrow and move heavy boxes, and sleeping was essential. Then a thumping sound persists, and it sounds as if something extremely heavy is walking on the roof that was wooden. It was a sod roof with grass covering it. And my dad could tell for a fact that someone was walking because of the creaking the boards made. And then one of the guys was proud enough to open his eyes and look around and said that the creature was peeking inside, but since it was dark, he could only see a silhouette. Eventually, whatever it was that was causing it left. One of them asked locals about the phenomena that they experienced that night, and one said that was normal and particularly ordinary, and they had a specific name for it, which he can't remember. But it's basically... Also, consider that this will answer your question, Dane. Consider that the fact that this all happened during the time of the Soviet Union. So, no cults, no beliefs in spirits, no religion. And believing in supernatural stuff is frowned upon, but people in that village and those locals were familiar with this kind of thing, some kind of creature walking around fucking with people. And they had even so much so that they had a name for it. It wasn't Yeti like we know it as. That's interesting. I really like that guy's post. A lot of really positive feedback. Yeah. That was a great one. I love that one. It was really good. But it will never beat the Avril Lavigne conspiracy. The Avril Lavigne was replaced with a doppelganger. Avril Lavigne clone. Why fans think Avril Lavigne died and was replaced with a clone named Melissa. Melissa the clone. Basically, how it all stems from is there's some photos of her from the early 2000s, and there's photos of her now. And her mole is in like a slightly different place in some photos, and they're like, there's the proof. And I'm like, you guys realize that using different camera lenses changes perspective on stuff like that, and it can entirely change the shape of someone's face just by using different types of lenses. So that's where it all stems from, and I guarantee you that those like teen magazines and shit probably fed into that shit.
Oh, without a doubt.
You know, like, what did those magazines even used to write? Most of it was like...
It was all drama.
It was all drama, like...
Drama and rumors.
Who's Bella Thorne dating now? You know, shit like that. You know who Bella Thorne's dating right now, though, Dane?
Bella Thorne or Bella Thorne?
Bella Thorne? Thorne? Thorne.
Bella
Thorne.
Thorne.
Bella Thorne. The redhead from Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's dating OnlyFans. With $2 million.
There's a scandal behind that.
There is an entire scandal behind that.
Oh man, I haven't bothered to watch or listen to anything.
Let me explain let me explain this to you. Bella Thorne basically said, "Hey, I'm starting OnlyFans. It's $200, and I'm gonna upload a picture of myself." And then she posted just like a bikini selfie or something like that, and everybody that paid $200 for it was really pissed. 10,000 fucking people.
But
paid her OnlyFans account, and she made $2 million in a week. By the way, follow us on Pornhub.
Yeah, follow us on Pornhub, CTU Network.
So that's not a joke, by the way, for everybody that's listening or watching. And so we were supposed to be back at the end of August, and our ceiling lights got delayed, which is all these pretty blue lights that you can see on my face. And because they got delayed, we had to push back all of our production stuff. And so we made a video to announce our production delay called Two Necromancers Get Fucked by Jeff Bezos, and we wore Plague Doctor masks and made this whole little dumb skit about it. And we uploaded it to Pornhub to tell everybody that we were going to be late coming back. So I say we go ahead and start moving over to
the interview.
To the interview, Dane, if you're ready for that.
Yep.
Some Civil War related stuff, if I remember correctly, based on what you were telling us.
Yes. So the night that this occurred, it was about 3 years ago. It was about in 2017, I would say, likely around maybe December, January, beginning of that year. So to kind of set the scene, we are in Chattanooga, and my friends and I have been spending the entire night at a bar, and we closed the bar down, and we wanted to go hang out, and we were feeling a little mischievous. So we went to this place. It's called Sherman Reservation Civil War National Military Park, and in this particular area is when on November 25th, 1863, I believe it was, Major General William Sherman led his men across the Tennessee River, and he had to do this twice. He kind of had to go across once and then cross it again. And he was ordered to attack the Confederacy on the north side of Missionary Ridge. So the ridge essentially is just a very small, very, very minor mountain range that goes through Chattanooga. And on one side of Chattanooga, you have the entire downtown city area. And on the other side, you have more of a residential business plaza kind of situation happening there. So Missionary Ridge is about 7 miles long, and the entire battlefield is that length. So these men, Union and Confederates, were fighting on this entire length of this ridge. And it's actually very cool if you go there now. The roads are very, very narrow, but there are these amazing houses that date back from this time. And they're amazing. They're gorgeous houses, and they have statues all along this road. It's called Crest Road. And there are statues and cannons and all kinds of battery memorials and stuff for both the Confederates and Union men that fought during the Civil War in that particular battle. There were 3 of them in Chattanooga, but this one particularly is what I'm talking about. So the day, it was, like I said, November 25th, when Sherman was ordered to attack the north side of Missionary Ridge, but he had some trouble due to, I believe it was some information. Some of his men were told to stay in the pits, and some were told to go to the top of Missionary Ridge. But I guess to their benefit, the Confederates were also told these same orders. So I believe the end was the Confederates had lost about, I want to say, lower 6,000 men, and the Union lost about lower 5,000 men. So there were, like I said, 3 battles, but these battles, particularly this one, even though it was a total shit show, it significantly contributed to the Union victory, which is a huge deal, actually. So, all right. So
I honestly, you know way more about Civil War than I think I learned in my entire course of education. What about you, Dane?
Well, I love history. I love everything about history. If I could find, I want to be a curator in a museum. That's my dream job, or an archaeologist. And I'm trying to tell my 5 and 7-year-old children to follow my dreams so they can take me on an expedition or something. Because I didn't make it that far. But yeah, I love literally everything about history. I cannot get enough of it. And so, especially living down here, we've lived here for a little over 3 years, and there's history everywhere you go. I mean, I think maybe 4 or 5 miles down the road from my house is the actual Chickamauga Battlefield, which is fantastic. you can get in your car and drive to different areas, like different statues where different kind of battles happen on this battlefield. And if you listen, like, I think it's like you call a number and they'll tell you like what happened in that area and who was there and who won and who died, etc. So there's history literally all around me, and I could not be more ecstatic about it.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
really cool.
I have to know this. You know, I have to. This is my dream.
100%. I'll actually tell you a side story real quick. So I used to work in the wild animal field for a long time, and there's a guy I used to work with. He used to work at, I think it was the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles, and apparently, that was his job before him and I met in the wild animal field. He used to work there, and apparently the building had all kinds of ghost stories, and he had a couple weird things happen over the years, if I remember correctly. And I thought that'd be such a cool experience.
Oh, for sure.
But as you were saying,
for sure, I love it. Like my favorite place that I've ever been in my entire life, I've been there several times, is Washington, D.C. I love all the museums. You know, the first time I went when I think I was like 15, I went with my dad, and he's not with us anymore, so it's like super fresh to me.
Right.
So, and I'm looking for jobs. I'm like, am I going to join the FBI? And I'm like, no, I've done drugs, so I can't do that. So it's like, that's I have to get to Washington, D.C. I have to do something with history, but I'm getting my business degree, and I guess I'm just going to go that route, whatever. So, I mean, life is what you make it. And anyway, so, all right. So if I'm going to explain this location, it's super, I mean, when I called this lady, and I'll tell you about her a little later, and she's like, where is the Sherman Reservation? And I said, oh, it's on Missionary Ridge, you know. And she's like, oh, I had no idea. And she's like lived here her whole life, probably, I would assume. But it's very, it's kind of tucked away, even though it's like right on the ridge there. There are like very narrow roads, like I said. And I'm not sure, it's been so long since I've been there, if it's like a three-way, like a T kind of intersection, or if it's a four-way, but it's very small. But like I said, the reservation's on the hill, and in order to park there, you literally just have like a pull-off on the side of the road, and maybe 2 or 3 cars can fit there. So we're like perfect spot. And I lived on the residential side, like on the hill there, before it gets like flat ground. And so I was like, oh, so super close to my house, so we're just going to park here. So we're there, right? And we're like hanging out, and we're talking and stuff. And we're about 20 minutes in, and just literally just sitting there having conversations. And I think it was probably, between like 4 and 4:30 in the morning, we started hearing cannons going off. And I'm not just like, in the distance might be somebody shooting a gun, because here in Chattanooga, it's either like gunshots or fireworks, and your guess is as good as mine. But these were actual cannon shots, and like being fired. And I had listened afterward. I went onto YouTube to watch like people firing cannons, and I was like, that's exactly what that sounded like. I was like, this has to be what I think it is. So we're sitting there, we hear these cannon shots. My friend is packing, because I guess that's, people do that here a lot. So he like pulls out his gun, and he's like, something is happening. And I mean, you just sit there in disbelief as these cannons are going off. There had to have been about a dozen fire shots. And it was, one, like I said, the highlight of my life. However, I was also scared shitless. So we kind of sat there for a minute, and we're like, well, I think it's time to go home. And that was the end of it. But after you guys had reached out to me about doing the show, I kind of started doing some research. And I did some research in the past, but I never had anything come of it. But I reached out to a local gal that I mentioned earlier. Her name is Amy Petula of Chattanooga Ghost Tours. And I had asked her if anybody had ever reported anything like this in the Missionary Ridge area. And she's like, no, but, there were a lot of things, like Civil War battles and stuff going on up there. So I really wouldn't be surprised. And I'm going to reach out to other people, and I'll get back with you later. On a side note, I did do other research on my own today, and I read about people finding artillery shells and, cannons and bullets and stuff. Like, this one guy on Missionary Ridge says that his yard is just made of metal. And these people are digging up all kinds of Civil War artillery remains. And I guess there was this one person who was digging to put a pool in up there, and they found an actual Confederate soldier buried in the ground. So,
dude,
right, right, and that's one thing that she had told me. So Amy, like I said, she's of the Chattanooga Ghost Tours, but she also wrote a book called Haunted Chattanooga. And like I said, she said nobody's ever reported anything like that. But she also reached out to, I think, another local author. His name is Mark Fultz, who wrote Chattanooga Chills. And he said that decades ago, there had been tons of reports of cannons firing and men shouting. So legit, I'm not the only person that's heard this. And I wanted to go and knock on people's doors and be like, hey, do you hear this? Or are you guys not able to? Are you in denial? What's happening? Because I definitely heard this. But I cannot imagine living on Missionary Ridge and hearing what I heard and them not ever hearing anything like that. It's just it blows my mind. So it has to be something that's actually occurring and people are hearing all the time. And I love it. I think it's amazing. I wish I could be there and watch it in real life.
100%.
And that's my story.
I think those kind of stories are awesome when you have the verification from other people where something is happening, where other people are hearing it too. So you know you're not hearing things or going crazy.
Right.
What do you think it is? What do you think? I guess ghosts in the general are. Do you think that they are some type of being that exists in a light spectrum, and that's why we can't see them? Or what do you think they are? What's your opinions on that?
I have, over the years, I've lost faith and I've found faith and I've lost it. And I kind of battle with that idea in general. And I feel like one of the most taboo things to say is, I'm atheist, but I also believe in ghosts. And people are like, how? And I'm like, eh. So I kind of am a person that looks more towards the facts of everything. Like I said, history, this is what happened. You can't deny it. So, and how I view, yes, I believe in ghosts, but how I explain it is, you have to think of a person's brains and how their brain tissue is connected and it sends electrical charge and all that, all that energy and everything. And when we die, it just doesn't disappear. It has to go somewhere. So whether that be a residual haunting or, a coherent and intelligent haunting or something like that, it has to be, like I said, that energy, it just doesn't go away. It has to go somewhere. So, you can't take it to the grave with you, so I don't know. That's the best I can come up with. I believe in past lives. I believe in reincarnation. But sometimes I think that people in our souls, we get lost or stuck, or, maybe we haven't been assigned to a different life yet. And we're just kind of still floating around and everything. And as far as what I heard and on Reddit, I had read another story about a guy who I think he said it was somewhere in Virginia. He heard cannons as well. And I think that these kind of situations are this is a residual kind of thing happening, because you have to think that this was one of the most, it was a terrible, terrible time to live. And, these men were fighting for, the abolition of slavery. And it was a big deal. And they were young people and they were old people, and they were just literally walking out of their houses with the clothes that they had on their backs and went to fight war. So I think that there is a lot of animosity and a lot of surprise that came with that. Because, if you read about the Civil War, these men were trenching through forests and everything. And you're walking through a forest, you cannot tell who's coming at you? You can't see anybody. You can't hear anybody. So a lot of times whenever it came to Civil War battles, those men were caught off guard.
Yeah.
And I think that especially in the location that I was in, is that all these men, like, I guess, there were over 11,000 men combined on both sides that died in those battles. There had to have been more, and they were all, caught off guard. And I think that those people are kind of their spirits or ghosts or electric currents or, even, like I said, intelligent hauntings are still there because they did not expect it. And I think that whenever we're dealing with these kinds of situations where a house is being haunted or a specific location where something is crazy and as important as this happened, those people didn't see it coming. And I think that's when we see the hauntings are more like exponentially, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here, guys. It's more prevalent, I guess,
Right. More activity.
When they least expect it. Yeah. But I think that if somebody's expecting to die, in a hospital or something, you do see hauntings there. But I think that whenever you're like, oh, shoot, I'm dead. Those people don't, realize they're dead and it's their energy.
I think when it's violent.
And
I think when it's violent, there's a lot of energy there. Yeah. I think that's probably why that kind of stuff sticks around for sure. All right. What are you going to say, Dane?
Hold on. Let me. What I was thinking was along the lines of Valhalla. So I'd assume that you know what Valhalla is for the Norse. Is it the Norse? The Norse
Vikings.
Oh yeah.
When they die, they go to an eternal battle. So what if when these men died in battle, maybe as you were saying, their energy stayed, and whatever that is just repeating the cycle of what it was doing before it died.
Well, in that case, yes, but the Vikings knew that they would be in an eternal battle. But I think that these men maybe not don't know that they're dead, and so they're fighting this war over and over and over, and it's never going to end for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
That kind of sucks. Sucks.
A little bit of a side note. I was watching a couple videos on Reddit. There are interviews from soldiers from World War I and World War II when they were talking about the brutality of hand-to-hand combat and trench warfare. And I'm not a Civil War person. I'm more of a history buff when it comes to World War I and World War II with the Great War and whatnot.
I love them all.
Yeah, I mean they're all great. Have you seen the movie Jonestown?
Yes, I have. Mm-hmm.
The intro to that movie, I think, really does a good job of depicting the Civil War. But when these men talk about their experiences and in hand-to-hand combat, not just shooting at dudes, but I'm talking about stabbing each other with bayonets and hitting each other over the heads with shovels, it leaves, how would I say it? It leaves an impression in the area that it happened in. So what I'm trying to get at is I lost my train of thought.
No, I understand what you're saying, Dane. Is it leaves a lasting impression on the ground.
Yes, it leaves a lasting impression on the ground.
It absorbs in they talk about that on Ghost Adventures a lot. How certain certain different types of materials will absorb that kind of energy or whatever you want to call it better. Apparently, if there's stuff like that around limestone, apparently it's super crazy over there. If you go to any location where there's limestone or running water, they talk about how there's huge amounts of really weird activity that goes on there. And I wonder if there's any correlation there as to the materials that are in the ground versus what's going on there.
Hey, I want to jump in here really quick because I don't know the chemical composition of limestone, but I do know running water, it creates electrical currents if given the opportunity. Correct? It's
right.
It can hold electricity. So maybe, and this might sound a little kind of off the charts, but it's a thought that I just had. So when a person is taking part in a battle, and they say, our ladies and gentlemen who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they deal with PTSD, and it's something that they get triggers and they deal with this emotional, overwhelming, situation that they cannot get rid of. They can't shake it. It's very difficult for them, and it leaves a lasting impression in their brain. Also, electricity. So maybe like the way that our earth works and the water, and like I said, I don't know anything about limestone, but it works kind of like how the brain works, and it just holds on to that situation just like our bodies do. Also made of water.
Can I ask you, so you said you heard the sounds of cannons firing. Have you ever heard cannons in real life? Have you been around them before when they fire?
Okay, I'm actually not entirely sure if I actually heard them, but I watched a lot of videos, especially today preparing for this conversation that we're having. I went onto YouTube and I watched a lot of like live firing of cannons, and there was also another video, I want to say, gosh, it might have taken place in Gettysburg, where they had heard cannon firing as well. And I couldn't really hear that. I heard it a little bit, but when I heard like somebody actively taking a video of a person firing a cannon, that's exactly what it sounded like. Yeah.
Okay. What I'm getting at is,
I mean,
a long time ago,
yeah.
I was like a teenager at the time, up in Oregon. There's these group of old dudes that get together with their old like cannons, and they have some World War II artillery guns. They get together and they just fire at this mountainside. And I was privileged enough to be around that. So when a cannon goes off, you can physically feel it. Is there something that you felt, or is it just like an audio cue? Maybe something that you heard internally. Maybe it wasn't actually a sound that was being produced out of thin air.
Nope, actually, and that's actually a very good point, because I didn't feel like I guess you would say maybe the percussion through my body and in my chest as you would if you were standing by the cannon. It literally, like, we were at the bottom of the hill, and like I said, it's a very steep climb. It actually sounded like it was coming from the top of the hill. It wasn't like it was next to me and I could feel it, or even down the road and it was like that loud. It sounded like it was above my head, like up on those mountains.
Oh, okay.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I actually was talking to the lady of the ghost tours, Amy, and I was like, I would really love to go back there again, at around the same time, but I'm pretty sure we would get arrested. So I'm actually going to look into seeing who I have to talk to kind of get into that area that early in the morning to see if I can actually sit there or lay on the ground and just wait and see what happens, because, oh my gosh, that would be the coolest thing in the whole world. And I'm pretty sure I would leave there with soiled pants, but it would totally be worth it.
So is this like currently a gated off tourist location, or what is it now?
No. So if you are, I guess if you're like me and you want to go check out things, I had gone there one other time, and I had gone up with my children, and we just walked around the park, and there's not much to look at. It's a big giant field, and it's covered in trees. There's surrounded by trees, rather, not covered in them. And there are like certain statues and different monuments to different batteries and everything. But it's there's not much up there, and we just went up there just to check it out. And I think that if you are doing tours, like if you're going along that road, it's the Crest Road, you're looking at people's houses, and you're looking at the cannons in the yard, and the people have like actual monuments, and it tells a story essentially of what had happened on this day in 1863. It would have to be between November 24th and 23rd and 25th, or 24th and 26th. But I'm pretty sure it all ended on the 25th. However, if you just drive along that road, there's so much to look at. So it's not like I said, Amy didn't even know where it was, even though she lives here and everything. So it's kind of tucked away, and if you drive past, you're like, oh, what is that? And then you're like, oh, this is kind of neat, and you just check it out. It's not like, I don't think people are drawn there. You don't have like tour buses or anything like that, and essentially, there's no way a tour bus would fit in that parking space. But it's more or less an entire upper mountain area for people to go to read about the things that had happened in 1863.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's not. No, scratch that. I don't know. It's just some arbitrary place where you wouldn't even think of looking unless you actually knew what the heck was happening, or if you lived in the area like we did and were just curious.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where maybe locals will go, but people from out of state or out of city probably wouldn't know about it.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And there are, I guess, we have the Chickamauga Battlefield like right down the road from my house, and they say that's haunted. We take the kids down there to go on walks and stuff. We haven't since, COVID, but I've never seen anything there. I've never felt any weirdness. And Amy showed me that apparently right on the other side of Missionary Ridge, kind of where we live, there are duplexes. And we live in one of these duplexes, I believe. And they're all like super haunted. And I never felt anything like that. And I don't know if I'm just like losing it. And I really wish I wasn't, because I want to. I want to experience it, but they're not coming to me. But yeah, these people say that these duplexes are haunted, and I have lived on that side of Chattanooga, and now I live in Ringgold, Georgia, which is not too far from the battlefield over there. But I have to imagine that a little over 200 years ago, there were men in uniform walking through my backyard.
Yeah.
And especially over in those duplexes where I live. So it's like, it's all around you, and it's amazing, and it's exciting, and I just want to see the ghosts. Like, is it that freaking hard? I want to see them. God, it's not fair. So, but I mean, my kids have never, my daughter, when she was like 1, we lived in Oklahoma, and she would like point to the wall and be like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, great, this is fantastic. And she would do it all the time. And I know. She would do it all the time, and there was never anything there. And I was like, and it was like she was born 2 hours before my dad died, and I was like, shit, I was like, I guess I'm asking for it. But and then like we don't like see ghosts and stuff, and like sometimes weird stuff happens. And I think it was like last week, we're sitting here, like I said, like there was a ridge on like to my left and a ridge to my right, like directly almost in my backyard over there. And like I said, they had been moving through here. But my daughter and my son were sitting in the living room one morning. My husband was walking out the door, and they said, did you hear that? And I was like, no, what? And they're like, somebody just yelled in the kitchen. And I'm like laying in my room, which is right off the kitchen. And I was like, I didn't hear anything. And I was like, what did they say? Right. And I was like, my daughter, Isla, she's like, I don't remember. And I was like, well, no, what did they say? I don't remember. And I was like, no, tell me. Right. And she's like, I don't know. Anthony knows. And I was like, Anthony, what did they say? And he goes, I was like, tell me what they said. And he goes, they said ho. And I'm like, I highly doubt they said, I highly doubt they said ho, maybe go or no or something like that. Because they know they can't say ho. They say ho on Fortnite. And I was like, what? And so that happened literally just a couple of days ago. And my daughter says that she hears, this is like crazy shit, guys. Okay. She says that she hears voices, and not like crazy voices or anything, but they'll be like just random words, that you hear maybe when you're like barely falling asleep. You hear like that weird loud noise or voice or something. But she told us, oh my gosh, like when we were living in Oklahoma, that she would have dreams. Guys, this is crazy. That there was a man, and she would have this dream all the time. There was a man that would come to her in her dream and tell her to do bad things. Now, at this time, she was probably like 3 or 4, so it was like really difficult for her to like convey the message that he was actually sending to her. But one thing that I got was that he would like tell her to do bad things and to get an axe and kill a deer. Great, right? Cool.
Fantastic.
Right. So recently she's like, I'm hearing like voices, and I'm like, honey, I don't hear them. I believe you, but let me know when you hear them. Like, let's talk about it. And, then they had the hoe in the kitchen, stupid hoe.
In the kitchen.
And then like recently after she's like, this is probably 2 weeks ago, she had said that she's hearing these voices again. And I said, remember that dream that you used to have about that guy? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, remember, like, he used to tell you to, like, do bad things? And she's like, yeah. I was like, what kind of things did he say for you to do? And she goes, oh, yeah, like, he would tell me to get an axe and, like, kill you guys and kill deer. And I'm like, right.
Oh,
So I talked to my mom. Right, I know. I talked to my mom about it, and she goes, she has a great imagination, and maybe she did experience, like, she can hear voices and stuff like that, because children are, kind of prone to those kind of things.
Right.
But my daughter obviously hasn't killed us yet, so thankfully for that. But she says that she has not had those dreams since we moved from Oklahoma. So maybe it was the house we were living in or something, but I'm glad we're out of there. But I swear, this stuff is literally all around us, and I wish I could see it better or communicate with it, because, this is like exactly my cup of tea. And like I said, I've never been more scared and excited in my life when I heard those cannons.
Right.
Never.
I mean, it's a very
It's
unique
very awesome.
experience, and just hearing like it was nighttime, correct?
It was like I said, I think between 4 and 4:30 in the morning.
Okay,
and we had closed the bars down, and we were just hanging out there for about 20 minutes, sitting in the truck and talking. And then all of a sudden, they start blasting like a dozen blasts, like over and over and over. And I'm like, there's no way these people don't hear this. And my one friend reached for his gun, because he carries, and he was actually that serious. But I had asked him about it afterwards, and he was like, "No, I don't believe in ghosts." I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
So what do you think it was?
Like, these gangbangers are not carrying bazookas, okay? They're not. They're not doing it.
I love this conversation, and we're actually getting close to the end of the time slot, but I guess I do want to, since you're a history buff, I want to end it with this question for you. What do you think about Teddy Roosevelt's Sasquatch encounter?
The Sasquatch encounter? I think Teddy Roosevelt was like the most badass person in the entire world, so if he said it happened, it happened.
There you go. Thank you very much for coming on, Jess. I appreciate it.